Yep. Oh, Nick Ashooh, Westwood One Sports. I missed 1 week, and I missed this. I'm back, and as always, I'll do the a little sip, a little coffee as we get going here. It's you take one Saturday and you don't wake up bright crack of dawn, and you realize, oh yeah, it takes a second to adjust to that. It's good though. This is that busy time of year. This is fun, right? You have that lull. You get the Super Bowl, and then everything kind of calms down. Then you've got the combine, and bunch of random ass stuff in the NFL. And then here we are. We get to March and it's fun. It's not really March Madness yet, but I at least consider it the appetizer, if you will, right? You get Arizona winning at the buzzer last night. You get, Georgetown making it where they did. And they, I don't know. This is just, again, in DC, people care about Georgetown. I know nobody cares about Georgetown after that. But the NFL is still king, though, right? The NFL is still king. And it's funny because as much as we talk about, well, the NFL wants more. The NFL wants more games. They want a Thanksgiving Eve game. They want to have an 18th week or 18th game and a 19th week and, all of these things. And when it really comes down to it, they're already dominating. And it's already a year-round thing. And they probably could get away with it, even though I don't want it. Really, I don't. I don't need an extra week. You don't really need an extra regular season game. We don't need a Thanksgiving Eve game, but the NFL is something that is an absolute king that absolutely dominates, including where we are in the offseason, including where we hit in free agency, where every little move matters. Every little move is breaking news. The NFL has been king, and it will be king for so long. I'm going to get one more sip here, guys. I can tell. Yeah, we'll do that. That's and for somebody, and I use DC as a reference just because I'm there, but I've noticed over the years, obviously, that I think we know it wherever you are, it's a similar situation. If you're in an NFL market and if you're in a college football market where that college football is king, it's just different. It's NIL and it's transfer portal, where whatever happens that surrounds that team, every little move, every little detail is going to be analyzed, and it's going to be either a freak out or it's going to be something where people just think, oh, that's it. We're a 12-win team this year. Like, the emotional roller coaster of the NFL offseason is unbelievable. And, when you're looking at certain players and when you're looking at certain moves that a team could make, so much of it is about avoiding risk, right? So much of it is about avoiding risk. You got a couple of wide receivers that are on the market right now that have a lot of talent, or at least showed before they were hurt, and they have a lot of talent. But you got to weigh the difference between the talent and the headache. So I always look at it like this, right? You got one of those scales. Think of those old school scales. There's the talent side of the old school scale, and then there's the headache side. We can call it headache. We could call it drama. We could call it off the field. We could call it annoyance, whatever words you want to use. So the Athletic reported late yesterday that the Eagles are now, at least, quote, no move is imminent with trading A.J. Brown. Now, the reason why I look at that and go, it's because we all know that A.J. Brown's not happy. We all know that that's a situation where for the last couple of years, it's been the same conversation about A.J. Brown and whether or not he's going to still be with the Eagles and whether or not he's happy with this team, whether or not he likes the offense or Jalen Hurts or all of these things. And it's a similar situation with Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco, but it's even worse there. And these are two very different situations, because right now, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you're looking around and you know that A.J. Brown's not happy, but it's not a forced move. It's not you have to make this move and have to get him out of there, because he's made it very clear that he's never coming back. And he said it forcefully in the media. We're not there yet with this. But the Eagles not trading A.J. Brown at this moment, they don't have to. They don't, you can tell that it's probably going to happen eventually, right? but you know that it's a situation that doesn't have to happen at this moment. So the Patriots and the Rams are two teams that apparently the Eagles have been talking to, and they make sense, right? They need receivers. Rams are all in right now. Rams are clearly in a position where it's F them picks. That's back. We're all in on probably the last year for Matt Stafford, and maybe Sean McVay after all of that. But if you're the Eagles, you can sit back and go, all right, what's the offer going to be? What are you going to give us? What's this going to look like? Because if you're in a situation where you know that you can move your wide receiver, know that you're going to get offers for that receiver, but they're not good enough where you've got to force your hand, then why do it? Then you can wait because you're still in a spot where that scale, right? Think of that scale. A.J. Brown might be annoying them at times, maybe a little cryptic on social media, might be somebody that you're getting eye rolls when people mention his name around the organization. But that doesn't mean that you have to go, okay, we have got to move him. This is destroying team chemistry. The Eagles have plenty of issues anyway. Like defensively, they're great, but we know they lack leadership. Nick Sirianni's not a leader. Nick Sirianni's a troll, but he won a Super Bowl, so he gets away with a lot of the stuff that he does. But when you lose in the wild card round, after winning a Super Bowl, the pressure is then on that next year. So Nick Sirianni's likely going to be on the hot seat very early on in Philly, unless they start off winning 3 or 4 games. But you know, as Eagles fans, Philadelphia fans are very calm, level-headed, and you know, it's not one of those situations where you have to get too worried about them being over the top and really angry. Look, the Eagles are in a spot where they can take their time on this because the headache of A.J. Brown is not quite there compared to where you are with somebody like Nick's or with somebody like Brandon Ayuk, right? But if you're the Eagles at the same time, if you're talking to the Rams, if this is really something that you do consider, you got to weigh more than that, right? Because if the Rams are interested and the Patriots are interested, the Patriots, you're getting them away. A.J. Brown goes to the AFC. You move forward, you move on, you go from there. And let's even put offers aside here for a minute. Let's put aside that these talks have apparently stopped. Because we don't even know what the value is of A.J. Brown. We haven't heard enough in terms, is it a second and a fifth? Is it a first? And they're probably not going to get a first. But like these are the types of things you have to think about. But the Eagles are in a spot where you are thinking about Super Bowl. You're thinking about winning a Super Bowl. Now, that defense is the Super Bowl caliber defense. Is that offense? And is it better without A.J. Brown? And if you decide you want to move A.J. Brown and the Rams give you a deal that's good enough, is it worth making that move and trading him to somebody you might see in the playoffs next year? Because think about this, too. The Eagles have to then make a move, make a trade that they're forced. Because nobody gets rid of talented players unless they have to, right? Stars in the NBA force a trade. Players in the NFL to a lesser degree, receiver. It's always, it's a receiver. It's some other position. It's never quarterback. Notice that it's never quarterback forcing a trade. It's always another position. But if the Eagles are in a spot where they've got to move on from a talented player, you going to move them to the Rams? Team in the NFC, you might see in the divisional round, or I don't think it's going to happen at this point, but NFC Championship game, because the Rams are clearly all in right now. All in for one more year, most likely, with Matt Stafford. Maybe one more year with Sean McVay. They've said F them picks. They're back. The F them pick Rams are 100% back. They traded for Trent McDuffie. They're all in on winning now. And yeah, they got some guys that are going to be there, obviously, like a Trent McDuffie. Like, for the future, there's going to be past that. But Matt Stafford, this may be his last year. So the Rams are all in. So they may make an offer. They may make an offer that the Eagles are like, look, we got to trade A.J. Brown. We got to make this move. But then you're trading a guy that you might see in the playoff. So like all of these things, you've got to really make that decision. And you've got to think about it. Brandon Ayuk, that's another receiver where there's the headache and there's the talent. And you got to weigh that thing. And the headache is way heavier on that scale. Really, he is done with the 49ers. We know that. It's over. Brandon Ayuk cannot go back to San Francisco. So if you're looking at where the 49ers are, the pressure's on them to just get him out of town and move on. Just move on from this. But is it you cut him? Is it a situation where you maybe get a 6th or 7th round pick? I don't think anybody's going to offer anything. They know he's done. And when your general manager has come out and said, yeah, he's probably played his last game for us, there's nothing left. So all the San Francisco 49ers are doing, they're dragging that thing out. But everybody knows, everybody around the NFL knows that Brandon Ayuk ain't coming back to San Francisco. Guy also hasn't played in 18 months. And he's probably going to Washington. I'm telling you this, in D.C., that's all anybody talks about. I spent all yesterday on my show. It was Brandon Ayuk again. It's one of those things where it's drawn out and it's inevitable. A.J. Brown could potentially go back to the Eagles. They could just say, didn't get the offer we want. A.J., figure it out. Does that mean that the Eagles won't be a little dysfunctional, won't have issues offensively, and it won't be a thing? Oh, it's going to be a thing. But in San Francisco, everybody knows that he's gone, Brandon Ayuk. And there's most likely no trade coming. So they're two very different situations where the organizations have almost shown publicly at this point that these are the one's inevitable and one's not. But if you look at San Francisco now moving forward, where are the 49ers in the NFC? Because think about the offseason they've had. You want to talk about a fan base that might be panicking over where their team's been. 49ers been real quiet this offseason. They've got Mike Evans, who's getting older. Kendrick Bourne is gone. Nice season last year. No idea what's happening with Jawan Jennings. You've got an aging offensive line. Didn't really address that. Trent Williams, again, fighting over a contract. He's 37. Where's that going to be? By the way, it's like Trent Williams is every single year pissed off at his contract and just decides, I'm going to just make it a thing again this offseason. Right? He could fall off a cliff at any moment, been dealing with injuries. The 49ers have dealt with those injuries for a while now. Do they have some younger talent? Absolutely. But, rather investing in improvements or other reinforcements on that offensive line, kind of left those spots where they are. And if you then don't have a Brandon Ayuk, again, hasn't been on the field in 18 months for the 49ers, whatever it's been. It's around 18 months. But if you're the 49ers and you have all that money committed to Brock Purdy, and we know this. Look, I'm a big Brock Purdy fan, but I'm a big Brock Purdy fan in his story and knowing that he's got to have some talent around him. And most quarterbacks in the NFL need that. Most quarterbacks in the NFL have to have other talent around them. This is not like it's it's not something that you look at and say, all right, well, that's a shocking development. That there are very few quarterbacks in the NFL that have the ability to elevate everybody around them. And even those quarterbacks like a Patrick Mahomes, they've got their limits. So the 49ers add Mike Evans, who had a nice season last year, but he's gotten older now. To then decide, which it's very clear, that Brandon Ayuk, no matter what, has been completely exiled from the organization. That tells you how bad it is. And that tells you that they're willing to say, you know what, a guy that we committed all this money to with all the headaches and all of the things that have gone on, all of the stuff off the field, we're willing to risk that and we're willing to move on. That shows you how bad it is and how heavy the headache side of that scale actually is. Look, when Brock Purdy came back last year, when he was hurt, look, Mac Jones was great, right? Mac Jones fits. It's a Kyle Shanahan offense. Pretty much every quarterback looks like they can be a starting quarterback in the NFL when they're playing in Kyle Shanahan's offense. But there's a certain point still where, what does Christian McCaffrey look like this year for the 49ers? Now, did he have a season last year where he was in the MVP discussion? Yeah. Wasn't going to win it. We know this, running backs never win. Can Christian McCaffrey evolve into more of a slot receiver and a guy that you use in other ways and more than just a running back as his career goes forward and as he gets a little bit older? Yeah, you can do that. What's that look like, though? What are can the 49ers withstand another heavy injury season? Can Brock Purdy elevate everybody around him if you've got a couple of young receivers and Mike Evans, and that's pretty much it, with an aging offensive line and a Trent Williams maybe missing games or whatever the case is? These are all things that the 49ers have to think about. And it's something where it just tells you, if you were to set odds right now, it's 1,000 to 1 that Brandon Ayuk is in San Francisco playing for that team week 1. When I'd say there's a very likely chance that A.J. Brown could still be in Philadelphia when it's all done. And these are the types of things that teams have to weigh this offseason. And look, we got a lot of time and a lot of stuff can change. The draft can change things. But like free agency at this point now, the difference makers they're off the market in free agency. It's all about trades now, or guys that have some high upside but a low floor, whether it's injuries or whether it's where Brandon Ayuk's situation is, where there's questions of what went on behind the scenes? Why was he willing to not even fight giving up that extra $30 million when the team took it? And what happened? And maybe we'll get that story. Maybe we'll have an idea what happens. But it's it's been a very, very, it's for the 49ers, it's been a long, drawn out process where they're willing to clearly sacrifice some of these situations and some of this talent. While when you're looking at what Philadelphia's got, A.J. Brown might still be there when it's all done. I still think in the end, you got one of these teams swooping in. But to see that yesterday, you're going, okay, they're going to play the game a little bit. I wouldn't give up a first-round pick for A.J. Brown. But you can have all the talent in the world of wide receiver, but if nobody's getting you the football, it doesn't matter. A.J. Brown is never going to be the A.J. Brown at his peak that we have seen if he's not getting the football consistently. So I get it. I understand why wide receivers get annoyed. It's just how you approach it, right? We're brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Protect small businesses with affordable coverage options. Quote today at progressivecommercial.com. I'm Nick Ashooh, Westwood One Sports. Could the Chiefs miss the playoffs 2 years in a row? Might just be a possibility. Nick Ashooh, Westwood One Sports. Oh, Nick Ashooh, Westwood One Sports. I'm at Nick Ashooh on all the socials. We're streaming live on my YouTube channel as well. It's just at Nick Ashooh, like all the other things, because we got to be on a million things now. You can't be on just one platform anymore. It's just more and more every day. The algorithm changes every day. Nobody cares, but I'm just saying it's different every single. These are the types of things we talk about during the break. Is you're on this. It's just it's the nerdy stuff that we get into. So it's if you look. I understand that we got a lot of time still leading up to the NFL draft. I'm a mock draft guy. I nerd out on mock drafts. NBA, I was looking at one this morning. NFL, same thing. I mean, we got a lot of time, but you'll start to see certain areas where it changes, where it evolves, where it looks a little bit different. March Madness is where you see guys rise up draft boards in the NBA. Free agency alters a lot of teams' plans sometimes in the draft, especially in the first round. I can tell you this, there's a lot of scouts at the NFL draft. Two things about the NFL draft, and keep this in mind because you're going to hear more about this as we move forward. One, the 2027 NFL draft is looked at the way that the NBA looks at this draft coming up in June, right? Loaded with talent. So you're going to see a lot of teams potentially thinking about maneuvering and maybe getting extra picks in next year's NFL draft. And there's also a lot of questions about what type of trades and what type of chaos we could see around pick 6 or so with Cleveland. My Commanders pick at 7, and I can tell you there's a lot of questions about what that team's going to do now because they've done a lot over the last couple of days. But being active in the offseason doesn't guarantee that you're going to have a successful season. I mean, we've seen it time and time again where teams will spend money, go out and get some big-name free agents, but then you look at a situation where you go, it didn't work. You spent money and the guys don't fit and the pieces don't fit. So I can understand why some teams sit back and wait while maybe being aggressive at one or two spots, addressing a position of need. The Chiefs are a team they've been pretty quiet, right? I look at the Chiefs and go, Kenneth Walker, you needed help in your backfield. I think that's a great addition for them. What else have you done? What else has Kansas City really done this offseason that makes you more comfortable that they're going to be a team that can rebound from where they were last year? Because it's not just Patrick Mahomes getting hurt. Remember, the Chiefs were fighting for their playoff lives before Patrick Mahomes got hurt late in the season. Travis Kelce's back. Okay, he's 37. He ain't the same Travis Kelce. He's got a wedding to plan. His career's coming down to that last little bit. Couple of smaller signings for the Chiefs, but the AFC is a loaded conference with a lot of young talent at quarterback, and that's how you dictate really and understand what a schedule is going to look like, what your road to the Super Bowl is going to look like. It's not like when the schedules come out, it's like we're in the spring and we go, okay, win, loss. I played this game. I've done it. I've done the schedule release shows where you're like, well, that's a win, that's a loss. It's April. We can do it in May. We can do it in June. There's so much we don't know. But the one gauge that you can have, the one thing that can at least give you an idea of what a road to a Super Bowl is for a contender, or just what our team's record is going to look like, is what does the quarterback matchup look like? And the AFC is loaded. The AFC is loaded with quality quarterbacks. And if you're the Chiefs, yeah, you got Mahomes, you're healthy, but you look at this offseason they've had, and look, I got to be honest with you, the Chiefs might be the third best team in their division right now. The Kansas City Chiefs might be the third best team in the AFC West. We know what Denver is. Now, Denver might be more limited at quarterback. Bo Nix has a high floor, but the ceiling's obviously lower than where Patrick Mahomes is, and I'd argue the ceiling's lower, at least at this point in the regular season, than Justin Herbert. But the Kansas City Chiefs and this quiet offseason is absolutely shocking to me. Really, I thought we would see the Kansas City Chiefs aggressive, and then they signed Kenneth Walker, and you're going, here they go. Chiefs on their way back. And now it's just been... I'm absolutely shocked, Carlos, as I bring Carlos Ortiz on here. I'm absolutely shocked, buddy, that this team, and you mentioned this to me yesterday, that the Chiefs have been as quiet as they've been this offseason. You did call last year that the Chiefs would miss the playoffs, so I got to give you credit. We actually weren't working together at that point, but it kind of feels like to me that the Chiefs might be a team that could be at the risk of missing the playoffs again in a loaded AFC.
Yeah, because, you take a look at, the people that they brought in, you've mentioned Kenneth Walker, they really didn't do much outside of that. They lost more guys than they brought in. In fact, your team, the Commanders, Ashooh, they got a linebacker from the Chiefs too, Isaiah Pacheco, who obviously they weren't going to re-sign anyway. He goes to Detroit. So they lost Gardner Minshew. So, like, who's going to, back up Patrick Mahomes? They have a lot of holes to fill. And yes, I accurately was ahead of the curve last year. Do I get any credit? No. But that's what happens to brilliance. It gets ridiculed. You get stoned. I mean, people thought the earth was flat at one point. Well, Kyrie Irving still does. But, it's easy to just kind of be on my side now and to be on my position and say the Chiefs aren't going to make the playoffs because we already saw it. It's just easier to see it now, dude. Other than Kenneth Walker, they're stuck in mud. They're going backwards. And a lot of that is because they're over cap space right now. They can't really make any crazy moves. They don't have the resources to do so. They have to really rely on smart draft positioning in order to go ahead and rebuild and retool that team because Mahomes, and say what you want about Mahomes, I think he is obviously an elite quarterback in this league, but he's no Brady when it comes to manipulating the salary cap. Mahomes went and got every dollar that he could, just like every other quarterback. And while his contract doesn't look as crazy as some of the other ones are out there, like I'm sure he'll go up for a redeal. He hasn't necessarily, helped the Chiefs out in terms of spreading out that cap hit and spreading out those resources. And rightfully so. He deserves every dollar he should get. But this is what's going to happen. You're going to basically be with guys that are going to be aging out, or you're going to be with a bunch of guys that you're coming in through the draft that you're not familiar with, like Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce being the aforementioned older guys. So this is just what their Chiefs are right now. As long as you have Mahomes, I can't necessarily say that your window is going to be closed because that'd be foolish. Mahomes is still young enough to do this, health being presumed another, 5-10 years or so. But you're certainly going to be in a lull right now where I don't see a playoff run this season either. This is just going to be kind of a retool.
Let me play a game with you because this is something that you have been adamant about. And I tend to actually agree with you right now because of how low the AFC is. I'm going to play a game, and I'm going to give you a team in the AFC, and you're going to tell me yes or no the Chiefs are better than. We're going to see how far down we put them in the standings, all right?
Oof, okay.
And I'm just going to start at the top. We're going to go exactly where everything looked in the AFC last year, all right? Because this may be quite a few. Some of these, I know what your answer is going to be, but this is to make a point, okay? Are the Chiefs better than, right now, the Denver Broncos?
No.
That's one. New England Patriots?
No.
Jaguars?
No.
Steelers?
That's debatable.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. If the Steelers are the line of demarcation, I don't know if that says more about the Chiefs or the Steelers. I will say the Steelers with a slight edge.
Okay. Now, the question obviously here for the Steelers is, who's at quarterback?
Correct.
Aaron Rodgers had a solid season for a 41-year-old quarterback. So let's play with the assumption that Aaron Rodgers is back for one more ride, one more go with Mike McCarthy as the head coach. You're going to give the Steelers the slight edge.
Yes,
they were the 4 seed. So they were the 4 seed. So that's 4 teams so far now. Houston Texans.
Texans are better.
All right. So the Chiefs now are down to, we're looking at the Bills. The Bills were the 6 seed last year.
Bills are better.
Okay, so that's 6 teams now. Chargers.
Chargers are better.
All right. Indianapolis Colts.
No.
Okay.
I believe the Chiefs are better than the Colts. I hate what the Colts have done this offseason.
Okay, so do I. Now here come a couple more questions, though. So we've now gone, so that was basically 7 teams that we went through that you see, and then I agree with right now that the Chiefs are not better than. That's 7 teams in the AFC at this point before we got to the Colts. All right. Now, Daniel Jones. Look, Daniel Jones looked pretty damn good before he got hurt. And I understand there was a little bit of fall off there, but I'm with you. I'm not a huge fan of the Colts, and the Chiefs are still a team that you look at. I'm not ready to just bury and put in the grave, but I don't like what the Chiefs have done this offseason. So we've gone 7 teams. We put the Colts above the Chiefs, but now come the Baltimore Ravens. Are the Baltimore Ravens better than the Chiefs?
Absolutely. The Ravens cleared the Chiefs.
All right. So that's 8 of the first 9 teams that we have listed from last year's AFC right down the board. 8 of those 9 teams, it's hard to or impossible to put the Chiefs above them. Now, here's one. The Cincinnati Bengals with a healthy Joe Burrow.
This is another one where you kind of pause a little bit. I'm like, are the Bengals better than the Chiefs? Question mark. I am Ron Burgundy.
Right.
With a Joe Burrow and a healthy receiving core, the Bengals are better than the Chiefs. However, how often are we going to keep saying if Joe Burrow is healthy? And that Cincinnati Bengals defense is atrocious, and they just lost Trey Hendrickson to the aforementioned Ravens. This one might be a push.
And listen, you're right about the if Joe Burrow is healthy. We've played this game for years, but we do know when Joe Burrow is healthy, they absolutely can beat the Chiefs because Burrowhead was a thing for a while.
Yeah, and we saw it.
We saw it. It lasted for a while. So at this point now, if we're looking at the AFC, here are teams that we can comfortably say are better than the Chiefs at this point. You said the Colts. I agree with you there. I don't actually disagree with anything that you've said here at this point. The Colts, the Chiefs are better than the Colts. I think we put the Dolphins above, or the Chiefs above the Dolphins, right?
Yeah, Dolphins are atrocious. Absolutely.
We can agree with that. Browns, Raiders, Jets, Titans. That's it. That you're comfortable with at this moment right now. Those are the teams that we can comfortably say the Kansas City Chiefs are better than the AFC, and that's it. That's not a lot.
No, not a lot at all. I mean, it's very possible if the Chiefs don't have a strong draft and they don't really bring in too many free agents, and I can't see that how they do, because again, if you look right now, they're currently about $20 million over the salary cap, so they're probably going to have to cut another guy or two. You'll be looking at the Chiefs at a top 10 pick next year in the draft.
It's just wild to me that the Chiefs had such an unaggressive offseason so far. I really like Kenneth, and I do think Kenneth Walker is going to make a difference there. Now,
I do too.
It depends on how they draft. I understand that. And, listen, when it comes to receiver, Rashee Rice has a lot of talent. He's just always got something going on off the field. And that's the biggest question is it's not about the talent. It's about whether or not he's available, whether it's injuries or it's a suspension or whatever the case is. And look, they could bring Tyreek Hill back, but what's Tyreek Hill? I don't know. They've said, we don't know if he's healthy. We don't know if he's healthy, and he's probably not healthy. What is Tyreek Hill, even if they bring him back? It's just, this was one of the things I thought would be the complete opposite, where I really thought the Chiefs, Carlos, were going to be a team this offseason that we saw going, okay, we're all in. We've got to get back to where we are. I thought the Chiefs would be what the Rams have been doing this offseason over in the NFC, where it's F them picks. We're going all in. We cannot let happen, what happened before happen again. And it's just not been the case at all. So I got to agree with you, man. There is a major risk that the Kansas City Chiefs don't make the playoffs again. Now, I will say this, a healthy Patrick Mahomes, out of all the quarterbacks in the NFL, and this is the one caveat that I will throw your way, is that a healthy Patrick Mahomes can make everybody better, and he can make chicken salad out of chicken S, right? Like we know that Patrick Mahomes is one of those few quarterbacks that can elevate everybody around him, because we've seen what he's done with nobodies at wide receiver, and Kadarius Toney making, the dumbest mistakes that you possibly could, and a bunch of walking brain farts at wide receiver. But for so long, part of that was also the fact that they had Travis Kelce, who was still elite Travis Kelce through a lot of this. You don't have elite Travis Kelce anymore. Are you going to get something out of him? Yeah. But are you going to be looking at Travis Kelce as a, 1,000-yard receiving tight end and a Pro Bowler again at 37? I don't think so. So, look, I'm with you. A lot can change. They can draft well. They can trade down, add more picks, find some guys that maybe are major contributors in the 4th round, and, draft a receiver. We know receivers can be a 3rd, 4th, sometimes 5th round pick and have monster rookie seasons. It does exist. But there's a lot working against the Chiefs now. So I'm with you, man. Like, I think the Chiefs are in a really, really bad spot right now. And I think that, when Carlos mentions this, like, he said this yesterday, man, I'm like, you know what, dude? You're right. Like, the Chiefs are in a really bad spot. I was just absolutely convinced that the Kansas City Chiefs would be a team that was aggressive this offseason. And we haven't seen it. So, we'll see. I'm on Carlos' side of things right now. I really am. I'm also on the side of a head coach that says, I don't care what anybody thinks, and I'm not doing anything to make any of you happy. It was the right call. Nick Ashooh, Westwood One Sports. when you have those did that actually happen moments, you know that it was a big deal. I still, days later, cannot believe that Bam Adebayo had 83 points in a game. 83 points. Out of all the people, if you were to compile a list of players that could score 83 points in a game, Bam Adebayo isn't even in the top 200. I mean, really. Well, maybe all time. Okay, maybe top 200 in like today's NBA. But like it just never it didn't make any sense while it was happening. It didn't make sense after it happened. It didn't make sense the next day. It still doesn't make sense to me at this point. And look, the NBA is weird like that. When you got an 82 game schedule, random things happen on random nights. We've had random 50-point games over the course of the NBA's history with players that you never would expect. The biggest one that I always think of was Tony Delk. If you remember Tony Delk, played for like 100 teams in the NBA. Backup point guard. I think his career average was like 8 points a game. Had a 50-point game long time ago. It happens occasionally. But there's still a difference between 50 and 83. It's funny because Kobe Bryant's 81 is almost romanticized more than Wilt Chamberlain's 100 points, probably because there's no video evidence of Wilt scoring 100. And then if you watch on YouTube here, I'll put on the tinfoil hat just briefly. Some people think that it never happened. Some say that Wilt Chamberlain never actually scored 100. But, Kobe's 81-point game was just so romanticized. And look, rightfully so. It was an incredible performance, and I get that people are like, oh, he bastardized the game, the Heat and the Wizards. It was an embarrassment. It wasn't basketball. Look, stop somebody. Really, this is what it comes down to. Stop somebody. And I don't care. I don't care how Eric Spoelstra handled it. I don't care that it was a blowout late and he kept Bam Adebayo in the game. Why wouldn't you? Do you understand how rare that situation is? Who cares that there were a bunch of free throws late and a bunch of fouls? And there's some video of even Bam saying, don't foul late. Like, I think he just wanted it to happen naturally from what it looks like. But, like, it's a random NBA game in the middle of a week in March. And you got a guy that's got a chance to make history. And no matter what, if he finished with 74 points, it was still going to be history. Do we have the audio now of Eric Spoelstra after the game? All right. So this was Eric Spoelstra after. All right. So when we get it. But, like, my bigger thing here is that, like, Eric Spoelstra has a responsibility to the organization and to his team. He doesn't give a damn what anybody else says. And the one thing we've learned about Eric Spoelstra over the years is he really doesn't give a damn what anybody says, right? I will say this, too. Eric Spoelstra went from the quiet film room guy that gets this head coaching job after Pat Riley, and we're looking going, who? He's coaching a team with LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, to now being one of the best head coaches the NBA has ever seen, and a guy that does not care. Even to the point where people give compliments and they talk about heat culture, right? Where you get mad, heat culture. He hated the expression heat culture. And then they came out with those alternate jerseys with the heat that said heat culture on it. But this was Eric Spoelstra when asked about how he handled the late game situation with Bam Adebayo and the 83 points and all the free throws and all the intentional fouls. He doesn't give a damn. And really, you know what? He has no responsibility to anybody but his team. And that's a situation because here's the thing. You have a chance at history if you're Eric Spoelstra, if you're Bam Adebayo, if you're the Miami Heat, something that nobody expected to happen. Maybe Luka, you expect to score 83 in a game. I mean, maybe SGA. I mean, how many players really in the NBA would you really look at and go, yeah, they could put up 80 points in a game? No one is going to remember how it was done eventually. They really won't. It'll be like a footnote, right? Bam Adebayo scores 8 top scoring games in NBA history. Wilt Chamberlain, 100. Bam Adebayo, 83. Kobe Bryant, 81. Nobody remembers how they got there. They just remember the number. What eventually happens is the details fade away and nostalgia sticks around. That's really what it comes down to, because if you're going to look at like LeBron James's career. Every little detail, every little game, every little fourth quarter mistake or success is analyzed and broken down, and it turns into a thing, and people forget. Eventually, people forget those little details, and they're just going to remember the successes with LeBron the same way that everybody only remembers the great things Michael Jordan did and not the horrible playoff games that he did have. I know people don't believe it. Michael Jordan had games where he shot horribly from the field in the playoffs. It does exist. Go look it up. But it's just, look, at this point, it's impossible to it feels impossible, but clearly it's not impossible to even get close to what Bam Adebayo did. So just lean the hell in. Lean the hell in. That is absolutely the right approach. Even the fallout days later from some people, who cares? Who cares how it was done? Everybody looks at the box score and the number and the history, and that's it. When you get to that point, you lean the hell in. Bastardized the game. Oh, they just ruined. This wasn't basketball. There's a lot of games that aren't basketball in the middle of March of an NBA season. It's 82 games. It's why they came up with the NBA Cup. It's why the NBA made up rivalry week to try and add some juice to regular season games that a lot of people just don't care about. Just stop it. It's a regular season game that had very little meaning that the Wizards, Wizards players aren't trying to lose, I can tell you this, but the Wizards are trying to lose. They want to make sure that they get a top 3 pick in this draft. The Wizards had 4 guys at some point. There were points in that game where the Wizards had 4 guys on Bam Adebayo and they couldn't stop him. I mean, at this point, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You just lean on it. You just lean all the way in. It was like watching an NBA team play like a mid-major college basketball team. And it's just like, or even, you know what? I'll even take this farther back. It was like watching these guys that are just dominant in high school. And you watch them and just go like, well, yeah, he could go right to the NBA if they let him. He's a big that just dominates all these little kids. Like you watch this film of, high school player dominates and puts up 83 points in a game. That's what it looked like. We're a bunch of kids that are like 6'7", and they're trying to guard a 7-footer, and he's going to be a top 3 pick in the NBA draft after a year of pretending in college, and you're going, yeah, he's going to be an NBA player, and all these other kids couldn't do it, and he just dominates it. He's dunking all over, buddy. That's what it was. The Wizards couldn't do a thing, and like, look, good coaches care about the moments with players. That's it. Because if Eric Spoelstra late in that game didn't give Bam Adebayo a chance, do you know what the noise would be like? It's far worse to say you didn't give your player a chance to go for history than you did, and then people don't like the approach that it was, right? If that makes sense. Okay, like there would be more people going, Bam Adebayo finished with 77 points. He had a chance to go for Kobe's record, and they took him out late in a blowout. What a loser versus, oh, well, he shot a lot of free throws and broke a record. And no, who cares? Who cares how he went for it? And it's just like, it's unbelievable. I see you nodding, Carlos, so you clearly agree here. Like, to me, it's just unbelievable that people make such a big deal out of a regular season game and the way this went. Of course, it was a blowout, and of course, this is the way that he had to go for 83 points.
I don't want to be morbid about this, dude. I don't think this is a complete non-story if Kobe's alive. I think it's because Kobe passed away, and it's Kobe, and that's the number to 81. That's significant. That's why people have a problem with this. If this was Sam Cassell with 81 points, no disrespect to him. I don't know why he's the random player that comes to my mind, but
it's a good one, though.
A point here. If it's anybody other than Kobe and like maybe Michael Jordan, LeBron, one of the names that we know, but again, Kobe was the one who passed away. It feels like just yesterday. I think that's why people were like, "Oh, this is so disrespectful to the game, brother." If Kobe was alive and was able to see this, and Bam is going for it, he'd probably be one of the first guys saying, "Go get the number, go get 83, go get 85, get what you can," because that's just the competitive nature that he was in. So I don't understand why we have such a problem with this, brother. If you're going to be able to score 83 points and 60 of them on free throws, well, that's just your team doesn't know how to defend, man. You want to give me the charity stripe that much? I'll take whatever point that I can. I have zero problem. I applaud Eric Spoelstra for pushing back on the naysayers. This should be such a non-story, but you know what it is? We're in the middle of the March and tournament play hasn't started yet, so we got to find something to throw stones at.
And listen, you are right. I think that is a really good point because nostalgia is very, very loud. and nostalgia is very powerful, and there's a nostalgia to Kobe's career, and you're right. I mean, if Kobe was alive, he probably would be the first to be like, go get it, but go do it. Like, go all in and lean in. It's not like Kobe would – listen, Kobe Bryant's last game in the NBA, he put up 60 and took 50 shots.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that game late, that was not – they were feeding Kobe the ball in every opportunity possible, and he had 50 shots in that game to score 60 in his final game. But what do people remember? Kobe's final game was historic. Not how many shots he took or what some of the shots look like or the little details.
Right.
People are going to forget. They're going to remember that Bam Adebayo shot a bunch of free throws, and that's really it. That's it. So I'm with
Congratulations to Bam. 83, what a hell of an accomplishment.
And
I think game that no one cared about.
Right. And it's like people ended up caring about that game because in the end, it was a situation where like, yeah, nobody cares about this game in any other way. So I applaud Eric Spoelstra. And I think, and you know what's going to happen too, is players look at this and then they go, I want to play for Eric Spoelstra. He takes care of his players. He gives them opportunities. It's really like, again, the NBA is a star-driven league. And you see this all the time where, and then like, Bam Adebayo is not a star, but he is an all-star. Listen, Bam is a very good player. He's just not somebody you expect to go all out and dominate a game the way that he did. But when you get an opportunity to be a part of that, and listen, let's be honest, Eric Spoelstra now and that Heat team always get to tie themselves to that. And they're selling 83 jerseys. And of course, like you got to market it. You got to make it a thing. But, you know, that's it. That quote from Eric Spoelstra is just, it's perfect. It's him encompassed into like one moment right there. And, you know, listen, the Heat are a team right now that they're not a title contender. They're a team that you look at and say, like, okay, they're always in the Miami Heat are always in a spot where you look at them as a playoff team and, you know, pretty much nothing more at that point. I mean, they're a 6 seed Eastern Conference right now. They're 38-29. This was the most exciting thing that's going to happen to the Heat all season. They're not winning a title. They're not going to probably get to even the Eastern Conference Finals. They might have a really aggressive offseason this year. They're going to go after, you know, Giannis. It's going to be one of those things. But, like, this is the most exciting thing to happen to the Miami Heat and that fan base that shows up halfway through a game on a consistent basis anyway. So it's like it gives people a reason to go. It gives people a reason to go watch the game. Like, good for Eric Spoelstra. Look, the NBA is weird, man. It's when it's a long season, sometimes you got to lean into those moments that are actually there. So I don't blame him. I don't blame them doing that. I don't blame him. I don't blame him saying what he said after the game. And that's going to be the greatest moment of Bam Adebayo's career. Still to this day, though, I can't. It's just Bam Adebayo at 83 points. All right, Nick Ashooh, Westwood One Sports. Another hour coming up. another little sip. Keep going. We're live on my YouTube channel as well. Carlos will jump on. Carlos is eating cereal right now. I won't put you on camera. Don't worry. But I see you eating cereal there, buddy. Yeah, he gives me the thumbs up. Yeah. Listen, and here's the good thing is Carlos is like, oh, yeah, I was like, we've talked a lot about making sure we get the video in here. We're going to be, you can watch us streaming. And he's like, do I have to wear pants? I said, no pants. You don't have to wear a shirt. I'll bring you up. Yeah, why not, buddy? I see you there eating some cereal. It's fine. What cereal you got? What's the cereal you got going on right now?
I'm eating yogurt with strawberries and granola.
Oh, even better. Very healthy. Greek yogurt. What type? Is it a Greek yogurt? Is it a regular yogurt?
I wish. Greek yogurt's too thick for me. Nah, just got some regular yogurt. Dude, I've been on my fitness journey for the last couple of months. I gained a lot of weight since I got out of the Army, so I'm trying to get back to an optimal weight. I've dropped 34 pounds.
Good for you. And 34 pounds in how long?
Since last June.
Good for you, man. That ain't easy. That's good, man. Good for you. Well, you enjoy your yogurt.
Well, thank you.
We'll chat later. I'm a big Greek yogurt guy. It's very versatile. I am the guy that you could use it instead of sour cream. It makes tacos and all your Mexican food a little bit healthier if you want to do that. Big fan of Greek yogurt, but that's not what the show's about. So we won't go there. I'm at Nick Ashooh on all the socials as well. So we'll just do one more little morning. Yeah. Listen, I know this doesn't count as March Madness right now, but I really do. There is something to be said for these conference tournaments as you get late. And listen, tomorrow's Selection Sunday, right? Like life comes at you fast. And we're in that stretch now where the lull of post-Super Bowl, NBA is not really picking up to the playoffs. You have the All-Star break even on top of that. And then, you get into March Madness slowly, like whispering, and then all of a sudden, boom, NFL offseason, and you got March Madness coming, and everything. It's like sports picks back up. It goes in those ebbs and flows right now, and it's it's interesting because we talk so much about the next face of the NBA, and we're looking around at all these players. It was Anthony Edwards, the guys, Victor Wembanyama, is it Nikola Jokic, and there's a lot of reasons why those guys could, and there's a lot of reasons why those guys can't be the true face of the NBA. The reality here is that no matter what, it's going to take some time. If you remember when Michael Jordan retired, you had that gap, and we're not talking Wizards Jordan, all right? We're talking Bulls Jordan. When you go that 5-ish year stretch, it was, all right, is it Kobe? Is it Kobe and Shaq? Are the Lakers that team? What about the Spurs? Is it Duncan? Is it, you go through this phase, and the NBA is going to go through that. But the reality here is that if you're looking at the NBA right now, the next face of the league might be playing in March, right now in college basketball. And you know this a lot, right? We see at least one player is going to be made a star in the NCAA tournament. At least one. I mean, go back to Dante DiVincenzo years ago, who then obviously has gone on to have a really good NBA career. But Dante DiVincenzo wasn't talked about as an NBA player. Then all of a sudden, Villanova goes on a run, and he ends up being a first-round pick. Now, I'm not saying to agree that type of player is going to end up elevating themselves and then becoming the face of the NBA down the road. But what we do know is this is a loaded NBA draft. There's a lot of talent, and there's going to be a lot of that talent playing, whether it's they've already been or they're done, or they're going to be going on in March, these conference tournaments, the NCAA tournament, like all this stretch, we are going to see names elevated to the next level. And yeah, Darren Peterson is a name that anybody that follows the NBA draft at least a little bit knows at this point. Some of it's controversy. Some of it's, why isn't he playing more? Why is he taking himself out of games? What's his ceiling? Is he going to be the number one pick? AJ DeBanza, is he going to be the number one pick? Who I still look at as probably the ceiling might be a little higher on Darren Peterson, but AJ DeBanza more likely to be the number one pick, more of like a sure thing. But, these are names that are now going to be elevated more and more as time goes on. And there is a chance that as we get into their first and second season in the NBA, one of them is put in this spot where they're really the next face of the NBA. They're in that conversation because right now there's no true thing. And really there was no true thing when Jordan retired. And it's not like LeBron wasn't known. He wasn't a known name when Jordan was playing his last year with the Bulls. He was a kid in middle school, right? It wasn't until, I think it was probably, I remember an ESPN, the magazine article. Remember that thing about LeBron James when he was a sophomore in high school. And that was the first real national exposure we were starting to get with him of is this going to be that guy? Is he going to be that dude? And he's exceeded those expectations. Yes, LeBron has exceeded all the expectations that were placed on him. But you had a stretch where, and even when LeBron was in his first couple, maybe 4 years even in the NBA. It was still more Kobe. Is it LeBron? Kobe had that stretch where he was in that spot. You had Kobe and Shaq before that got broken up. And, so there's going to be a level of a transition that's there. But right now, there's at least one player that's going to be playing in the NCAA tournament that's going to be in that conversation in the next couple of years in the NBA. And that's why teams are tanking. That's why teams are like the Kings and the Wizards and the Pacers and the Nets have made it very clear, like, they're not going to try to lose games. I mean, the Wizards are literally giving up 83 points to a guy because they want to lose games so bad. I know players don't tank, but I'm just saying that's what it felt like, right? But, look, tanking only guarantees so much anyway, but the NBA is a star-driven league, and you have to have stars to truly succeed. And you can do things, you can do all kinds of things to help your team get better in free agency and aggressive trades and high draft picks, but you got to have somebody hit. Sometimes a star just has to hit. And look at the Lakers right now. I mean, really, let's look at where the Lakers are. They knew it. Now I can put on my hat here on, if you're watching on my YouTube channel here, I'll put on the tinfoil hat once again. Did the NBA force Luka to the Lakers? Yeah, you're laughing, Carlos. Your mic is still on. I hear you eating your yogurt and laughing, and it's fine. But you laugh. Here's my by the way, my tinfoil hat does not fit my head very well at all. It's falling off of my face now. But I don't want to mess with the hair. Come on now. I want to be ready to go on Saturday after we go. I got things to do with the wife. Might go to Bed Bath & Beyond. I don't know. I don't know if we'll have enough time. Anyway, terrible reference, but you know where it is. Look, people can say what they want about the Lakers and the Mavs and that trade and whether it was like, let's set up the Lakers for post LeBron. But in reality, the NBA is always going to be a star-driven league, and the biggest markets need their stars, but you don't necessarily have to be in a big market anymore in the NBA to be a star, right? Like, but it still elevates your game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would get more attention on his game, more than the free throws, obviously. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would have more attention to be in more of the conversation of maybe face of the league, best player in the league, whether I think he's there or not. And I wouldn't put him up there over Nikola Jokic or any of that case. There would be more of that if he played New York or LA or some of those, but you still can be an MVP and you can still win, obviously, playing in a smaller market. But, teams that are major market teams have to have the stars. You can be a star without playing in a major market, but major markets have to have stars. And if you look at where the Lakers are right now, it's Luka's team. It's not LeBron's team anymore. Luka just put up 51 for the Lakers. LeBron had 18 points on only 13 shots. The Lakers this year are 8-3 when LeBron James isn't in the top 2 in shot attempts in a game, okay? So when it's two other guys have taken more shots than LeBron in a game, essentially, the Lakers are 8-3 in those games. That tells you the Lakers can win without LeBron being the main focal point, and they've clearly shown now that it's going to be Luka's team moving forward. And the Lakers don't run through LeBron the way that they did. And I will still make the argument. I've been saying this for 2 years. LeBron is going to finish his career in Cleveland anyway. This is LeBron's last year with the Lakers. This is it. I think he spends one more year and goes on the full retirement tour in Cleveland, and Bronny goes with him. I've been saying this for 2 years, and the whispers are starting to get just a little bit louder, and it feels that way. Don't you just feel like that transition's happening with the Lakers, where you look at Luka, you knew this was going to be the case. Obviously, Luka was going to be the guy that was going to be the next phase that was there for them. He was going to be the star. They need somebody like that. It's great for Luka's career. It's great for the Lakers. It's perfect. Say what you want about Luka constantly yelling at refs. He's one of my favorite players, but, I mean, dude, calm down. Like, got to pump the brakes just a little bit here, but the transition is happening, and this was the plan. And if you're the Lakers, you have to have that, because if you go back post Kobe to LeBron, that era too, right? There's always transitions. There were transitions from Jordan to LeBron, and, kind of who became the face of the league. There was also that transition from Kobe to LeBron and who the face of the Lakers was. Now, the Lakers had a lot of young talent, Brandon Ingram and that whole group. I mean, Lonzo Ball healthy was a very good player for them. But, the Lakers were a losing team until LeBron got there. That's the reason why they said, here are the keys, take over. You want to be lead GM? You can be lead GM. You want to make all the moves you want Russell Westbrook, and then you want to blame us for it later? That's fine. Like, the Lakers took all this, and then it comes back later, and they're frustrated, and right, it's like, oh, he's getting too much credit. All that's going to happen. Anthony Davis, go ahead, we'll get you. Because if you are a team in a market like LA, there's a lot of other stuff to do. You have to be relevant all of the time. The Dodgers spend big money because they need to stay relevant. The Rams say F them picks because they have to stay relevant. The Lakers have to have a Luka or a LeBron because they have to give people a reason to go to a random Tuesday night Lakers game when there's a million other things in Los Angeles you can do. The Clippers want to be relevant, so they went out and were aggressive with Kawhi and Paul George, and then the Paul George thing didn't last. And I mean, this is why you see this. You have to be relevant in these major markets. The Knicks were irrelevant for so long. They start winning. The former players start showing up. We see John Starks and Larry Johnson and Latrell Sprewell showing up at Knicks games. Allen Houston's part of the organization, so he's always there. There's nostalgia for me as a Knicks fan, seeing all those guys back. But, like, you know, you see that you have to have a reason in these big markets for people to want to show up to games. That's just how the NBA works. And, you know, guys get overlooked all the time in the NBA. We've talked about this before, right? The 65-game rule, and you're going to have players that might not be eligible to win the MVP. Victor Wembanyama, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic. I mean, that straw poll came out recently with voters and who they might vote for MVP, and you might have all these guys out of there where a Cade Cunningham and a Jaylen Brown gets more of an opportunity. A Luka Doncic gets more of an opportunity to win MVP, maybe. I don't think Luka's going to win it, but like they're going to be in the conversation because some names might just be eliminated. I hate the 65-game rule. I think you drop it down to like 55. I think you're good because it's just there's too many players in an 82-game schedule, and you can't eliminate 3 of your top 4 MVP candidates because they didn't play enough games. I understand if it's 40, that's not enough games. Drop it even to 57. I don't know. Come up with some random number. But, you know, there are players that still do get overlooked. Jaylen Brown should be considered an MVP. Jaylen Brown should be in the MVP conversation for the Celtics. Even before Jason Tatum came back, the Celtics are a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference, and it was because of Jaylen Brown. That's why. And he gets no attention whatsoever for it. If there was ever a year for a random guy to win MVP, this is the year in the NBA. He's somebody that has always been overlooked because he's been the number 2 guy until it was the NBA Finals, and then he wins Finals MVP. Cade Cunningham has now gone to that next step, but there's a lot of people right now you might be like, who? If you're a casual NBA fan, Cade Cunningham is somebody that deserves to be in the conversation for the MVP, but he has not elevated himself into that star category yet in the NBA where the casual NBA fan knows who he is. This is how the league is. It's just, it takes years to build up your star power unless there's hype leading you into the league years before. And that's what March brings to the table. There are going to be a couple of guys that will be looked at as potential MVPs in March Madness, like a Darren Peterson or an AJ DeBanza or whoever. Very quickly. There is so much hype and there is so much attention on some of these young guys. But this is what the league does. This is where the NBA is. And look, there's also no guarantees. We know this a lot, right? The hype that's placed on 18, 19-year-old kids may not be fair, but it's a reality. And sometimes they live up to it. And in rare situations, like a LeBron James, they exceed those expectations. You can criticize LeBron for plenty of things. The reality is there is no debating LeBron James has exceeded the expectations that were artificially placed on him when he was a sophomore, junior, senior in high school. He has absolutely exceeded those expectations. But there is a chance that with all this hype and all this love around all of these young kids that are going to be in this NBA draft coming up, there's going to be one guy that falls short, and there's going to be one guy that's drafted 6th, 7th, 8th, maybe even outside of the top 10. That goes, oh, you overlooked me. I wasn't in that conversation, and they have a better career than a top 3 pick. So it's even with all teams just drooling right now at some of the talent we're going to see in the NCAA tournament, there's no guarantee that those guys are even going to be franchise-changing players. I mean, Cameron Boozer might end up just being a decent big. He might be like an 18-9 guy in the NBA. Maybe. I mean, there's no guarantee that that's going to be the case, right? So the whole concept of like tanking for this and next year, the 2027 NFL draft and teams looking ahead to that, it helps, but it still doesn't guarantee everything. And it's one way to rebuild your team. But the one thing that you can always understand and you can always at least have in the back of your mind as a team is that there is a better chance, at least, of you being able to take a player that you've already seen at the NBA or the NFL level. You've seen what they can do. You trade for them, you sign them in free agency, whatever the case is. that gives you at least a lower level of risk than you have in drafting a player from college to the pro level and then hoping that their game translates. And that's why teams do get aggressive in free agency. And that's why some teams like the Rams just say F them picks. I mean, I would too. If you're trying to win now, there's a chance that you draft a guy in the first round that contributes. There's also a chance that a guy in the fourth round does it for you and your first round pick goes away for somebody like a Max Crosby. Of course, then the knee injury ruins it, and then that all changes. I still wanted the Commanders. I wanted my Commanders to go get Max Crosby, and maybe there's a chance now. But who the hell is going to pay 2 first-round picks after the Ravens voided the deal? It's probably not going to happen. But that's why some teams do that. There's different strategies. Not all of them work, but you still have to be able to determine whether that player is going to fit in your system, whether it's going up a level or it's going to a new team. All right, we're brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting your business vehicles 24/7. See if you can save at progressivecommercial.com. Which new quarterback situation is the best with all of the movement that we've had? Who is going to succeed the most in their new situation at quarterback? Nick Ashooh, Westwood One Sports. The NFL offseason always brings a couple of situations that you look at and go, that might fit for that guy. Might be a second chance. Nick Ashooh, Westwood One Sports, streaming live on my YouTube channel too, at Nick Ashooh. Kyler Murray to Minnesota makes so much sense. I'm not a huge Kyler Murray fan. By the way, internet, you got to stop. The Kyler Murray memes are great, but I've seen so many of little kids running around in airports, and it's just like, dude, it's way too good. And then there's AI video. I saw one of J.J. McCarthy throwing little Kyler Murray into a locker. Again, it's AI, it's fake. And I'm going, God, it's too much. And you're laughing, Carlos, but man, they're good, dude. They're so good. Like, I watch these and I just go, they're so great. But I think Kyler Murray is in a great situation. And let me tell you this, because, I think you and I might differ on a couple of these things. There's 4 quarterbacks that have had, that are in new situations this offseason. And I'm a big believer in situation dictating the success of a quarterback, especially a young quarterback. We've now seen multiple instances where quarterbacks leave a bad situation, get a chance to learn, a lot of times as a backup, sometimes as a starter, but, and then Sam Darnold is obviously a great example. Baker Mayfield is another example. I would argue Daniel Jones. He actually spent time in Minnesota after the Giants released him, and I know he was on the practice squad, but he did get a little bit of a chance to learn at a smaller dose. Kyler Murray in Kevin O'Connell's offense, if he can't get that to work, it ain't going to work. We've seen some highs. We've seen some moments with Kyler Murray where the talent is absolutely there. He gets a chance now to work with Justin Jefferson. Because in the end, Kyler Murray is going to be the starter. They would not be bringing Kyler Murray in if he was not going to be the starter. It's not going to be J.J. McCarthy. He's constantly hurt. It may never work out. But to me, it's Kyler Murray in Minnesota, number 1, best spot. Second best spot, give me Tua in Atlanta, actually. Because if you're looking at Kevin Stefanski and what he can do with that offense, Kevin Stefanski is a 2-time coach of the year. Cleveland is the Browns are an absolute disaster, but you got weapons at wide receiver. You've got a ton of guys you can throw the ball to. You've got Bijan Robinson in the backfield. If you're Tua, I think he ends up winning that starting job, and Michael Penix Jr. is the backup there. A similar situation to J.J. McCarthy, Kyler Murray in Minnesota. Then, this is crazy, but give me Geno with the Jets at number 3. Geno with the Jets. And look, I laugh at the Jets. I make fun of the Jets. We all make fun of the Jets. Shockingly better support, actually, with the Jets and the talent they have, at least on offense, than what Geno Smith was working with the Raiders. And then Malik Willis, who signed in Miami, I'm going to put that at number 4. He gets a chance to be the guy. We saw a little bit in Green Bay at times. Tennessee, he did not look like an NFL quarterback at all. But I just don't know if you've got enough in Miami now as they're kind of been gutting that roster and getting rid of guys. I think that's a bad situation for Malik Willis to really thrive. So give me Kyler in Minnesota, the best situation, 2 in Atlanta, number 2, Geno with the Jets at number 3, and Malik Willis at number 4. Those are my rankings of best to worst situations for new quarterbacks.
Yeah, so let's get number 1 and number 4 out of the way right now, because we're in lockstep right there. I think Kyler Murray absolutely is it. If it's not here, it's never. I can't imagine that Kyler Murray is going to get a third shot. It's certainly a low-risk flyer for Minnesota to be taken, because J.J. McCarthy is exactly why Kwesi Adofo-Mensah got fired. I mean, you take J.J. McCarthy, which, granted, he won a national championship, but that was a team that was built on defense and a running game. So J.J. McCarthy
by the way, let me just say this, Carlos, I never understood that pick.
Agreed.
I never understood the love for J.J. McCarthy, given exactly what you said. And the way Michigan did things, it was about the run game and it was about defense.
Yeah. I mean, Blake Corum would have made a better pick at 9 than it was for J.J. McCarthy. So I never got that whatsoever again, and that's why Adofo-Mensah is out of a job. So I'm with you. I think Kyler Murray's in the best fit. I mean, someone has to get the ball to Justin Jefferson. Why not be Kyler Murray? And you saw what he was able to do with Trey McBride. So it's not like Kyler's completely devoid of talent. So I'm with you in number 1. And number 4, I'm with you there as well, because I believe Malik Willis is going to be in the absolute worst situation of the 4 teams that you mentioned. There's still a possibility that they're going to trade Jalen Waddle. That's not completely off the table yet. So right now, other than Devon Achane, that's your best weapon in Jalen Waddle. And Waddle's issue is just he just gets banged up so much. So if they wind up trading him, then who the hell is Malik Willis going to be throwing to? It's going to be like that Mr. Perfect wrestling meme where he just throws the ball, runs, and catches it himself. So let's see. Malik Willis has the speed as well as the hands. So I'm with you on 1 and 4. Here's where we're going to differ a little bit. I'm actually going to give a slight edge to Geno Smith. I actually think he might be in the second best position compared to Tua, because for the reasons that you mentioned, the Jets have sneakily kind of got some pieces there. Brees Hall, I absolutely do love. I thought Brees Hall would have been an incredible fit for Kansas City. Like if they were both on the open market, I think I go Brees Hall over Kenneth Walker. He's 2 years younger, a little bit less wear and tear. So I think Brees Hall obviously is a great back for anybody to have, let alone Geno Smith. That's better than anybody that the Raiders had. I know they took a high pick on Ashton Genty, but did he really look like he was worthy of that quite yet? Might just be the Raiders being the Raiders. But Garrett Wilson's a legit number one receiver. Now they do need a 2. Like I do like A.D. Mitchell. I think it was a great trade from the Colts. But the Jets obviously they got to get another playmaker or 2 there. Their offensive line's okay. Mason Taylor, I showed you a little bit of something there. So I think there's enough for Frank Reich, who is, going to be the offensive coordinator here for the Jets. Now that you have some actual competent coaches in the building under Aaron Glenn, I think this is, kind of a perfect storm for the Jets where I'm not going to go crazy and say they're going to win, 7-8 games. No shot. I think they're still going to be a bad team. But I think Geno will have the support and the infrastructure now with his second go around with the Jets that he did not have with the Raiders last year. And the thing with Tua is it's just his health. I mean, I think the Falcons have a little middling something there too. I'm with you. I really do like Kevin Stefanski. I would not have been mad at all if the Giants pivoted and gotten Kevin Stefanski instead of John Harbaugh. Just when Harbaugh becomes available, that's who you go get. But Stefanski, 2-time coach of the year with the Browns, and the Browns are a dumpster fire. So I think Tua's in a solid situation, but because of his own health, that's why I have him slightly behind Geno in terms of the situations because, he takes one wrong bump. The Falcons are in, a deep doo-doo anyway. So I'm going to go Kyler, Geno, Tua, and Malik Willis in that order.
Now, I will say that the health is certainly a different question. That's a situation that you look at where it's like, okay, you can't predict it, but you do know with Tua that it is always a risk with all the concussions, which scares the hell out of people. I mean, we've seen them happen live in games, and we know what concussions can do. So there is obviously that question that's there. I think some of this comes down to me, Carlos, is when I look at Geno and the Jets, I still just, how you can say before this past year with the Chiefs, it was always, well, the Chiefs are just going to find a way. The Chiefs find a way to win. It's the opposite with the Jets, where even if things make sense on paper, I go, well, it's the Jets, and they're going to find a way to lose. Right? LOL Jets every single time. And by the way, the minute that they start losing a game or something goes wrong or it's bad for Geno or whatever the case is, the Aaron Glenn falling asleep at the combine memes will be everywhere. They can't even avoid it in the offseason. Yeah. And it's not, and honestly, he's there. Those are long days. The camera was on him for one moment. It was clear they were cherry picking and waiting to see him drift off so they could get it on camera. We all know that, but it doesn't matter. And it just feels like the football gods hate the Jets. I don't know why they're cursed. I don't know what it is that they did, but there's always something that falls apart with the Jets. On paper, the Jets have some talent, but the Jets have had talent on that roster for, the last few years. I mean, we've looked at it where you mentioned a Brees Hall and you mentioned a Garrett Wilson, and you're looking at, again, I know Sauce Gardner's gone, but you had Sauce Gardner there for a while where you looked at him.
Quinn Williams,
like, wow, they could actually draft. They've done a decent job, and it was just quarterback. Quarterback was the issue that they couldn't figure out, but it just feels like the Jets find a way to make things worse than where they really are. And let's also keep in mind here, Geno Smith is not the long-term solution at quarterback for them. The 2027 draft, as I've mentioned, scouts love, teams love. Teams are going to be tanking next year in the NFL for that draft. And if you're the Jets and you got multiple first-round picks, you're going to want a quarterback next year. What does that mean for the regular season? Now, again, they don't necessarily have to tank because they've got multiple first-round picks and there's opportunities there. But, there's still a chance that it's like, well, let's start playing our young guys because we want to make sure that we have this opportunity. That's what scares me about the Jets. But again, look, all of these situations absolutely have their own questions. I will say this, though. Can you think of another team, Carlos, that has had 2 left-handed quarterbacks where they don't have to alter their offense offense in any way like that right now with Tua and with Michael Penix Jr. It's a perfect situation there where you've got at least bare minimum. Michael Penix Jr. can learn a little bit from Tua, and they don't have to alter the offense in any way. It's exactly the same. I don't think I can think of another time when a team has had two quarterbacks that are both left.
Yeah, I can't think of one either. And just kind of go back a little bit on the Jets here for a second. Dude, don't be surprised if the Jets take a shot at a quarterback in this draft either. I know a lot of people everyone's focused on the 2027 draft with all the picks that the Jets have. Would it be the craziest thing in the world if the Jets took Ty Simpson with like their second or third first round pick? There's
a lot of people suggesting that.
I think it's a real possibility. I mean, so Aaron Glenn needs to win games or he's going to get fired. I think he has the shortest lease of anybody coming into the offseason, man. And that's also because you mentioned that the Jets are cursed. Well, they are because they have Woody Johnson as their owner. So that's why the football gods hate him.
Amen. You are absolutely right. Yes.
So I think this is going to be a perfect storm for the Jets. Bring in Geno Smith, let him be the competent veteran leader. Let him kind of set the table for a little bit. The second that they're out of the games, which will probably be toward the middle of October, beginning of November, play the young guys. That's a Ty Simpson. Let's see what we have for the rest of the year. And they'll treat it like the Cardinals did. They will take quarterbacks in the first round every single year until they get it right, i.e. Josh Rosen into Kyler Murray. So I wouldn't be shocked if they took Simpson in the first round this year. And if he winds up getting a couple games and they say, all right, we've seen enough, let's go get another guy, take Arch or whoever the hell it's going to be next year, the Jets just keep taking quarterbacks until you find somebody.
There is a very good chance, Carlos, that that's what happens. And here's what I will say, too, is that when you're in a position where the Jets are, where they've not been able to, they just cannot figure out quarterback at all. Just get a bunch of guys, right? Just get a bunch of guys and see if one of them works. I know that's not always the best way to rebuild a team, but if you don't have the quarterback situation figured out, your ceiling is always going to be lower as an organization anyway. So if you've got all these first round picks, take Ty Simpson either in this first round or maybe he falls to the second round and you can get him there, and take Ty Simpson this year, take a quarterback in the first round next year with the picks that you have, see who works. And you got Geno and you got two other guys, and maybe one of them you can trade away for, the value will be lowered a little bit, and maybe it's a second or a third or whatever the case is, get some picks back. I mean, why not? It hasn't worked for the Jets so far. Give yourself more of an opportunity. I mean, they've gotten the other picks right. Again, Breece Hall was right. Sauce Gardner, when they had him, was the right pick. Garrett Wilson was right. I mean, Quinnen Williams, these are players that worked. Again, they were right to trade away some of them, and they were right to move on and get picks, do all this stuff. All that makes sense. But they've been able to identify some talent. And for as dysfunctional as the organization has been for so long, it was almost like you had smarts enough in the front office to kind of push through all the mud and make it work, but it hasn't been quarterback. It has not been quarterback. Zach Wilson should never have been drafted as high as he was drafted. Sam Darnold, we can see now, actually had the talent. Like it didn't work out with the Jets. They couldn't develop the quarterback. Pine Needle in the chat also says, take a quarterback every year in the 6th and 7th round, take a flyer, kind of like Brock Purdy. Well, he's a 49ers fan, so you get to live with Brock Purdy out there. Yeah, it worked out well for the 49ers, but I don't disagree with that. I've said that for years, that you should always have a guy that you're developing at quarterback, whether they're on the practice squad, whether they're on, they're your third string quarterback. I mean, why not? The NFL, the one thing the NFL lacks is really like a development league. You don't have a G League. You don't have a minor league in the NFL. Now, the closest thing is they've got kind of a relationship with the UFL, but it's like it's a spring league. It's a little different. The NFL needs to find a way. Maybe it's an NFL Europe, right? Like maybe they bring NFL Europe back. They're expanding the league. They've got games going on all around the world here. Now you want to expand the game. If you were to develop an NFL Europe again, and those players that are 6th and 7th round picks get opportunities to play in NFL Europe, and they're I know there's logistics there and time zones and scheduling and all of these things, but practice squad may not be enough for some of these guys. Real game experience at a level that's one below the NFL in an NFL Europe or a UFL, if the UFL was playing at the same time, which doesn't benefit them as a league. But the NFL needs to find a way to have that, because great quarterback play is good for the league. And for teams to have more of an opportunity to develop guys that may not be ready their first couple of years, but could be ready later on down the road, which we've seen in the NFL. That's great for the league as a whole. So they got to figure out some way to be able to do that because not everybody's going to find a Tom Brady or a Brock Purdy. And no, I'm not saying they're the same quarterback, but they both were drafted very late, and Brock Purdy is pretty damn good. He still is. I know he needs talent around him to a point, but like, again, big Brock Purdy fan here, but they're also going to have to figure out some things this offseason if you're the 49ers. You got to protect him. Trent Williams could fall off a cliff or not show up again because his contract for the 10th time now he doesn't like. And he's like, I'm not showing up again. So, like, but you got to figure out ways to be able to develop this talent in more efficient ways as opposed to just put him on the practice squad. It's not the same. You're not getting the same level of experience that's there. So, all right, we'll wrap it up next. Nick Ashooh, Westwood One Sports. We're such an events-driven society, right? We love events. We love the Super Bowl. We love March Madness. We love, all of these things. That's what makes March Madness so great. Really, it's an events-driven society, and we want things to be big. I tell you what, March Madness and the NFL playoffs, even right at the very top for me in terms of greatest weekends in sports. Now, it's a little bit different as the tournament goes on because you don't have as many games. So it's about maybe the quality of the games, the quality of the opponents, or do you want just the mass amount of games, right? You go to a sports bar and it's just TVs with every different game going on there. Or do you want it to be Sweet 16, Elite 8, where it's like the quality of the game that's actually there? There's something to be said about just being in that spot where I got a million games to watch on a Thursday and a Friday and a Saturday and a Sunday in that first weekend. My favorite weekend is still the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, though. Not wild card, division round. The reason why I say that is because wild cards sometimes, not this past year, we actually had some really good games, but in the past, there's always at least one team that you go, they don't belong there. I thought it'd be the Panthers, but the Panthers almost beat the Rams. But normally the wild card round of the NFL playoffs, you're like, okay, this game's gonna be the turn-off game. It'll be very quick. Let's just not really worth watching anymore. March Madness, you get such a mass amount of games. You're going to have the blowouts. You're going to have the 16 seed getting blown out by the 1 seed. I know we've had an upset, but let's be real. Most of the time, it's not the case. When you're sitting there and you're looking at what you've got just in terms of everything going on, it feels like an event, right? It's the ultimate event. And it's what makes people who don't care about college basketball suddenly care. You've got a bracket. You're betting on it. You've got, whatever. You're in the prediction market game now, whatever the case is. There is a lot that ties people into something where it's everybody's together with it. Look, the Olympics do that. The Winter Olympics had record ratings this year. People cared about it. It's done well. NBC does a great job with it. And, there's a lot of different things going on, but we love events in this country. Even the World Cup. This is not a soccer country, but there are a lot of people that love Premier League and all that, right? Like it's growing with a younger audience, but the World Cup becomes an event and there's not a lot of competition when it's on, so people really care about it. The World Baseball Classic's just not there. Like that's the one thing where it's going on right now and you're like, oh yeah, that's right. That's going on. Although I think, Carlos, you said you've been watching it quite a bit, haven't you? You're on that list? Yeah. I figured that's the case. Because no, not at all. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think just the thing with baseball in the US just sits farther down the depth chart. I mean, you probably put it with, it's going to be football, obviously, college and NFL. And then after that, it's debatable in kind of the region you're in, whether it's the NBA, whether it's college basketball. There's baseball in some cities. Again, it depends on the market you're in. Like in New York, people care about the Yankees and Mets. In Boston, people care about the Red Sox, right? In other markets, you don't have all 4 major sports teams, or you're an SEC country and everybody cares about Auburn and Alabama, or again, go down the list of all the college football programs where people care more about that than the NFL. So it's once we get past football in this country, the audience is more fragmented, where there's different regions where people care about different sports or different teams or whatever the case is. So baseball's got to cut through a lot of the noise. Now, baseball's at an advantage where at least you're looking at July where there's nothing else going on but baseball. But how many people are that invested in July baseball? That's the quietest time of the month in sports. People are taking vacations. The games don't feel like the playoff picture. It's too early in July in baseball. It's just hard for baseball with the long regular season they have. Look, it's hard enough for the NBA with their 82-game schedule to make games meaningful an entire season. It's why they have the NBA Cup. It's why they make their rivalry week, which most people don't realize exists, but it exists. They're trying. And it's why you let guys go for 83 points in a game if you can do a Bam Adebayo, because why not make it meaningful while you can? But, baseball's in that similar spot where you got twice as many games. You're playing pretty much every day, every night, all the time. It just gets watered down. It does. And there are people that are just not as into baseball because it's always there. Like, I know it's a cliche, but the whole idea of like absence makes the heart grow fonder. The fewer games that you have of a sport, of an event, it makes people want to have it more. It's why I am so anti 18 games in the NFL season and adding more in the Thanksgiving Eve game the NFL is talking about. I get it. The NFL is king, football is king, and people are going to watch. But at what point do you really get to where you're the NFL going, people are getting a little bit tired, just even a little bit? Like, do you want to get to the point where you even see any level of a drop off in the numbers? Like, what is the limit? What is the limit for the NFL to the point where we go, that's too much? To me, 18 games, but also I think 17 games is too much. If you're going to expand the idea of the NFL adding meaningless regular season games doesn't move the needle the way playoffs or more international games does, because that expands the league. Ultimately, that's what the NFL is trying to do. It's about making more money. Baseball is making more money with the World Baseball Classic to a point. I know it's not Major League Baseball, but like the sport, it expands the sport. You grow the sport, you get people more interested in it. It brings them back to the league. Like, all this stuff matters. That's why, guys that play in the majors are playing in the World Baseball Classic. It helps the league. It grows the league. The NFL is trying to expand the way that the NBA has expanded, the way that basketball as a sport has spanned across the world. But there was really the 92 Dream Team that really did that. And basketball is already big around the world anyway, but not to that level. The 92 Dream Team really expanded the sport more. The NBA's done a good job having their international games and having their ties to other leagues. And, they have the league in Africa now for the NBA that's become a development league for it. It's smart. The NBA has done a great job of expanding the game around the world and expanding their league. If you're the NFL, you still want to make sure that your sport, your league is an event. You want to make sure that it's meaningful, that every single week that game means more, because everybody's in it. Like, my team, my Commanders are going to play once a week, but I watch the rest of the league too. But there's something to be said for like a Wednesday and then a Thursday, and then let's find a way to do a Friday, and then it's a Saturday, and then and it's just like you take away some of the novelty that's there. You make it more meaningful when you're not playing every single night. The NBA plays every single night. College basketball plays every single night. Baseball is playing double headers. I mean, it's just, you saturate the market with your sport, and it does put people in a position where they at least are a little bit more numb to it being on, because it's like, well, I can watch this later, unless it's a matchup that really matters. And I get it. The ratings are still great. You have horrible Christmas games like we did the first year they did it on Netflix, and you still beat the NBA. I understand. Like, I get all of this. But if you're the NFL, it's a much better spot for you to kind of stretch out the game around the world, as opposed to here's an 18th game in the regular season. Because when you're the NFL, you have a level of responsibility to, if you're going to grow your league, you want to grow the sport, because American football isn't on the level of basketball or baseball around the world. Baseball is far more popular around the world in a lot of countries than it is in the U.S. Basketball is pretty damn close in some countries to where it is in the NBA. If not, it's the most popular sport, depending on where you are. Right? I mean, France has built a program that, again, the men and women in the Olympics, in the Summer Olympics, the gold medal games, it was U.S., France for both men and women. So you have other countries that are starting to catch up there a little bit. If you're the NFL, you're not just expanding the NFL, you're expanding and spreading American football. And it's starting to work, because it's not about people that are in their even 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. It's about getting the kids involved. It's getting 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds to go, I love American football. Look at that. All right. It's so good. It's a terrible accent. I get it, but it doesn't matter. The point is that you want the 10-year-olds to love the game. You want the 10-year-olds to be a fan of whoever. I mean, they've seen the Jags forever. Everybody loves the Jags in London, even though they don't realize it's terrible football. We got better teams over here. But you're starting to show it, as you've seen all the announcements of the international games that they got going on across the world. That's how you expand a sport, and that's how you expand a league. And again, I go back to what I said before. I really think that the NFL will probably bring back some level of an NFL Europe at some point. I don't know if it's operated the same way that it was before. It was too soon before. They hadn't really expanded the sport enough where people cared about it, because in the end, if you create any sort of NFL Europe, it's a minor league. You're not sending the best football players to Berlin to play a 10-game schedule or whatever. But because you're starting to play these games now, the long play is, all right, let's get everybody in Spain, in Germany, in the UK, in Brazil, and they're playing games in Australia now. Like, you do that, and again, I know it's not Europe, but you get the idea. And maybe that's even the key. Maybe it's not. If you can afford the travel and handle it, I mean, I know they could, but have a team in Australia, a couple teams in Australia, then Europe, they play each other. I mean, the flights would be brutal, but I mean, there's an opportunity there for the NFL, but you've got to get a deeper, more committed fan base to be able to do that. And I think that's where that really expands, and it works. And listen, don't worry about it competing with the NFL. It's not going to. Have it play in the same time as where the NFL is, and maybe you got some guys that it's kind of a G League for the NFL. I think there's an opportunity there. Again, I know there's a lot of logistics. There's a lot of travel. There's a lot of that. But it makes more sense if you're the NFL than, like, let's put a team in London that plays in the NFL. That's just stupid. It doesn't make any sense. So they're trying a lot of things. I'll tell you, the NFL and American football in general going to look very different as time goes on. The expansion of the game is absolutely happening. So we'll see. World Baseball Classic just not hitting here yet, though. Not yet. But March Madness is going to take over a lot of it anyway. Thanks to Lee DeLapp, Carlos Ortiz. Great stuff today, guys. Great work. I hate to say it, but, here we are. March Madness. It's going quick. It's going quick. The tournament's coming up. Cannot wait. All right, I'm back next Saturday. Nick Ashooh, Westwood One Sports.